Hey guys, Cliff Olson, Doctor of Audiology and founder of Applied Hearing Solutions in Phoenix, Arizona, and in this video, I'm going to tell you if over-the-counter hearing aids are right for you. Coming up. Over-the-counter hearing aids have received a lot of attention since they were made an official category of hearing aids in October of 2022. Not only are over-the-counter hearing aids lower in cost than most prescription hearing aids, but they are also easier to acquire because you do not have to see an audiologist like myself to get them. This is perfect if you cannot afford prescription hearing aids or if you happen to live somewhere where you do not have good access to professional care. And with recent research showing a 48% reduction in loss of thinking and memory loss with hearing aid use among at-risk individuals, over-the-counter hearing aids could not have come at a better time. However, not everyone is a good candidate for over-the-counter hearing aids. So in this video, I wanted to discuss 3 different criteria that you can use to determine if you would be a good over-the-counter hearing aid candidate. But before I do, if you could do me a huge favor and click that like button, it really helps out the channel because it gets these videos in front of a bigger audience. And if you have not yet hit that subscribe button with notification bell, go ahead and do that as well because that ensures that you never miss one of my newly released videos, and I publish a ton of new videos every single week. That being said, I greatly appreciate it, and a huge shout out to Sony and WS Audiology for sponsoring today's video. Prior to the official release of over-the-counter hearing aids in October of 2022, major hearing aid manufacturer WS Audiology partnered with Sony to develop what would become some of the best over-the-counter hearing aids on the market. The Sony CRE C10 self-fitting over-the-counter hearing aids are one of the smallest and virtually invisible over-the-counter hearing aids on the market right now. Not only can they barely be seen when you're wearing them, but they are also compatible with the Sony Hearing Control smartphone app on Apple or Android devices, so you can check your hearing and self-fit your own devices. They are extremely well built with a design that has been proven since 2016. They also have the Sony CRE E10s that are their wireless rechargeable earbud style self-fitting over-the-counter hearing aids that can stream audio directly from your Apple device into both of your ears. This form factor was designed for individuals who prefer an earbud style hearing aid versus devices that look more like traditional hearing aids. Both of them come with 2 tiers of customer support from Sony, which is a brand that you already know and trust. If you would like to check out either one of these Sony over-the-counter hearing aids, I will have them linked in the description. Now, as for whether or not over-the-counter hearing aids are right for you, it really depends on 3 different criteria. First, you must be over the age of 18. Over-the-counter hearing aids are intended for adults, not children. And it's not to say that children cannot use hearing aids, they just have to use prescription hearing aids because they require the intervention of an audiologist to test their hearing and treat their hearing loss appropriately. A lot of hearing losses in children are genetic and more complex than what you see with adults that are just developing age-related hearing loss. And since over-the-counter hearing aids are acquired without having to see an audiologist, they are not appropriate for children because certain medical conditions could go undiagnosed. Not to mention, children are not very good at understanding how things should be sounding with hearing aids and are not capable of adjusting their own settings to do so. Adults, on the other hand, are more likely to have hearing loss due to things like noise exposure and just getting older. They also have a lower likelihood of a medical condition causing their hearing loss, so they don't necessarily require medical intervention as frequently. Adults are also way more capable at understanding how things should be sounding and self-adjusting their own devices to make those things sound the way that they want, which is why the FDA specifically used age to determine whether or not you would be a candidate for over-the-counter hearing aids. The second criteria that you need to meet is having a perceived mild to moderate hearing loss. The FDA has set specific requirements for the output levels of these over-the-counter hearing aids, which makes them capable of amplifying sounds for individuals with mild to moderate levels of hearing loss, but not hearing losses that exceed these levels going into the moderately severe and severe categories. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, if you've never had a professional hearing test before, how do you really know if you have a perceived mild to moderate hearing loss? Well, the National Institutes on Deafness and Other Communication Disorders suggests that you might have a mild to moderate level of hearing loss if speech or other sounds seem muffled, you have trouble hearing when you're in a group, in a noisy area, on the telephone, or when you cannot see who's talking. You have to ask others to speak more slowly or clearly, to talk louder, or to repeat what they said, or you turn up the volume higher than other people prefer when watching the TV or listening to the radio or music. Some over-the-counter hearing aids like the Sony devices use in-situ hearing screeners to determine whether or not you are likely inside of this mild to moderate hearing loss category. If you're in the mild to moderate range, then you are likely going to be a good candidate for over-the-counter hearing aids. If you are not inside of this range, then you should really consider prescription hearing aids to treat your hearing loss. And the third criteria to determine if over-the-counter hearing aids are right for you is whether or not you're comfortable working with new technologies. Some over-the-counter hearing aids use a default amount of amplification right out of the box, and you have a little dial on the hearing aids themselves to either increase or decrease the overall volume. However, the better over-the-counter hearing devices will allow you to do more customization by using things like an equalizer or activating and deactivating certain digital features to optimize your hearing even more. If the mere idea of making self-customizations confuses you, then achieving a high level of success with over-the-counter hearing aids is going to be more difficult. After all, your ability to receive benefit with over-the-counter hearing aids directly depends on how well you set them up and if you're using them appropriately. If this all sounds intimidating to you, then it may be helpful to enlist the help of a family member or a friend who's really comfortable with learning new technologies, or you need to work with an over-the-counter hearing aid company that offers a high level of customer support. It is widely accepted that the more support you receive with your hearing aids, the higher the likelihood of you having success now and in the future. Over-the-counter hearing aids will undoubtedly improve accessibility and affordability of hearing treatment for adults with perceived mild to moderate hearing loss who are comfortable working with new technologies. This will be critical for increasing hearing aid adoption rates in the United States, since only about 10% of individuals in the mild to moderate hearing loss range currently treat their hearing. So if you yourself find yourself meeting all three of these criteria, then over-the-counter hearing aids could be exactly what you've been waiting for.